good and you? My name is Wyatt, and welcome back to the New Hampshire Vintage Channel. It's a little windy today, so sorry about the wind noise. But I have underneath this tarp here sled I picked up back in October, and it was kind of one of those impulse buys. You know how that goes. And a friend of mine was gonna take it off my hands, but he decided against it. He has too much other projects like me. So right now I'm in the middle of waiting for parts for a couple projects, so might as well get another project going, right? That's kind of how it works. So let me uncover this and we'll show you exactly what it is. Yeah, that's right. Polaris Indy. I don't remember what year, but it's a 440 fan, kind of like the maroon one I have. Oh, I guess it wants to get covered up again. And it is a long track, two-seater, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we'll see if we can fire this thing up. It was running when I bought it. It needs brakes. There's absolutely no brakes on it. But at least if we can try to get it fired up, maybe I can get to the bottom there and we can see if we can run it around just a little bit. Also, I think the steering is kind of locked up, so we're gonna have to try to address that too. All right, let's see if we can fire her up. Wow. So here she is. This is a 1997 Indy 440 Touring. I picked it up at a swap meet back in October for cheap money. And I was going to use it just as a around the house if me and my girlfriend want to go out, but she actually wants to drive her own sled, which I am all for. So my buddy was going to take this off my hands, and he put on his own windshield because the one that was on it was cracked and junky. And he got a few things started, like the duct tape seat special. And I think he greased some spots because the steering is super tight. When I bought it, the guy told me it's going to need bearings, so I'm not going to do that probably. The track is in fairly good shape. It's got a few miles on her, but she's actually all there and complete. High facts are probably smoked, so we should probably change those out. Not going to do that. And what else here? She has no tack, just a dummy light. Does have a speedometer, and it is showing 8,000 miles. Wow. My red Indy 440 has 12,000 miles. But I mean, she is all there, complete. The cowl's been repainted, and the guy did a fairly good job painting the cowl. You can see where the bigger windshield used to sit. There is some scratches, and looks like he painted in his garage. Dust, debris underneath, but you know what? It's pretty good. Used to be that like lighter blue color, or this teal here, he said. All right, so steering's super tight. I mean, it's on wheels right now, and it does not want to move. So I think these little spindles here, the ski slides up this little sleeve, and this gets all rusty inside. So we did grease right here. It didn't really do much, so I'm going to take these off and clean these up and see if that's the problem. All this is all moving. We checked all in there a while back. So we are going to replace the windshield. I'm going to get a big one on there, give that one back to him. Bumper's been hit, re-straightened, hit again. Typical for these. Let's check underneath the hood here. Ah, yes, the tried and true 440 fan-cooled motor. As you saw, this thing started up 3 poles after sitting a couple months, and I know this thing always starts up, but we are going to go through the carbs because she likes to run with the choke half on. So we're going to go through those. Probably change out the plugs because it's a pet peeve of mine. I like doing that, even though if these are probably perfectly fine. The exhaust is in pretty good shape. I like the hood mount set up there. We're not going to do anything with the seat. That's fixed. We are going to need to get a brake lever. My buddy did take this off when we took the reservoir off. Dust. And as you see here, there's the line, which we're probably going to have to replace because I think this thing's just full of dust too, and might as well just replace that. Recoil's in good shape. Belt looks fairly new. We'll take this cover off and look at it, but if it's in good shape, I'm just going to leave it on there. And yeah, not even worry about that. Clutches seem like they're engaging fine. So let's just try to make this junky sled a little less junky so I can get it out there on the market and it makes someone an awesome ice fishing sled, or someone with a kid just around the yard, or a good first sled for someone. I love these wedges. They're just awesome. So unfortunately, my mic cut out for a lot of this video. More towards the end of the video, my audio will be back up. But I got a new mic, so that should all be fixed. Anyways, as you can see here, I'm loosening up the bolt that pinches against that top of the spindle there to keep the ski in place. So we're just going to get that loose and bang it out with the hammer. And then we're going to hopefully try to get that spindle out. Hopefully it's not too rusty. So as you can see here, I'm gently hitting the ski to get it out. And I kind of got stopped in my tracks, and you guys are about to get brought in a second to see. It looks really good. I mean, there's no signs of rust on that whatsoever. And it kind of got me upset because I was hoping that these were the problem. So you can see I'm getting the other ski off, and same thing. It was super clean. So now we got to figure out what's going on. So I decided to take the skis off anyways, as you can see here, lifting the left side and then the right side, just to see inside, to see how bad it is. And we'll probably bring you in and show you what it looks like on the inside. Now I'm just going to gently lower the sled back down, and we'll move on to seeing what's going on. So I'm bringing you in with the flashlight now, and you can see inside. I mean, yeah, it has a little tiny bit of gook. It could be a little cleaner, but that should not affect the steering at all. And I mean, you really have to push on the side of one side of the handlebars to even get it to turn. So we got to see what else could be the problem. So we're going to start diagnosing that now. So I'm just showing you my fancy hot rod screwdriver, but so we're taking the airbox out to get to the carbs, to take those out, to clean them, but also that'll give us a little more access to the steering linkages and all that stuff, so we can see exactly what's going on. So after taking off the Phillips head screw on the clutch side, there is another screw on the other side, but that was missing. So next is to take off the fuel pump, or at least get it loosened up. And sorry, my dog in the background. So this fuel pump actually is a lot easier to access than the fuel pump on my other Indy, which is actually pretty much below the motor. So I like this design way better. So get that loosened up and we can get the airbox pulled out. Next, I'm just kind of looking over, seeing the steering underneath before I pull the carbs, just see what's underneath there, and I'm kind of getting glimpses of all the joints and everything like that that either needs to be greased or cleaned or whatnot. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I found out what the exact problem is and why the steering is so tight. So let's bring you guys in to show you that.
So sorry if I don't correctly pronounce what exactly these parts are, but there's pretty much a sleeved shaft right there, and at the bottom of the steering shaft it's welded and connected to that rod, which then is connected to that joint, and that joint's connected obviously to the tie rods, and that's all greased up and WD-40'd, and that's all free moving. I came to the conclusion that that shaft down there below the oil line is the problem. And I looked up some videos, and a lot of people have been having problems. I guess it's kind of known for these sleds. And the issue with that is you can't get them out because on the bottom of it, it's welded. So I saw that you could put heat to it, and that's what I'm going to try to do to see if that solves at least 80% of the problem, and that will be a huge difference. So let's start putting some heat to it. So now you can see I'm heating up that shaft sleeve, and I kind of get a little better view here. You can see at the bottom the steering shaft is welded into that sleeve, so I can't get it out to clean it or anything like that. So I put the heat to it. I did a couple cycles of heat, and as you can see, it's actually steering a lot better now. And every time I do a heat cycle to it, it just frees up more and more. Now, I don't know if I'm doing it more harm than good, but it's definitely making a difference. I did take out the motor mounts and move the engine up just so I didn't melt any wires or go near any of the gas lines or anything like that. It was just a lot easier for me to access that. As you can see here, I'm moving it with just 2 fingers now. And yes, I know once the grease cools down, it will harden up a little bit more, but it's steering just as good as my Indy, which steers really well. So now I'm sitting back on the sled, and I'm just going to quickly show you guys after the grease is cooled how easy this thing is to steer. Now, it's still not perfect. It has a little bit of a friction tight feel in a way. It's not as loose as my Indy is, but it definitely made a big difference. And I did put some fresh grease in there, and you know what, for a sled like this is going to work out just fine. So as you can see on the bench behind me, I have the carbs off the sled. I took those off when I moved the motor up to put the heat to that sleeve. So we're going to dive into those and see what's going on. So we're going to dive into the first carb here. I have 4 screws, and one of them is a little strip. So I take these first 3 off, and the 4th one gave me a little trouble. But as I'm taking these screws out, I'm just going to show you guys what's inside. I'm not going to go through a full rebuild on these just because I have other videos that show that. But I get the first 3 off here, as you can see. And then this 4th one here, yeah, she was giving me a little bit of problems. You can see. So I went and grabbed a bigger screwdriver, which I should have just done for the other screws to begin with. And with a little bit of persuasion, I managed, there we go, to get her loose and off. So once I got that screw off, yeah, look how bad that thing is. We'll slow the video back down, and we will show you what's inside. So this one didn't look too bad. Definitely a lot cleaner than I've seen before. A little bit of crud here and there, but nothing that bad at all. So there's the bowl, and then here's the body of the carb. You can see right through the jet there, so that wasn't clogged. That wasn't clogged. You can see the fork there moves up and down freely. You could also see, if you look the right way, you can see the little hole in the pilot jet down below. So this carb was actually in pretty good shape. So I'm just going to take everything apart and put it in the cleaner, and we'll move on to the next one. So we're moving on to the second carb. This sled wouldn't run good without me using the choke for some reason. It seems like it liked to bog. And taking this carb apart, after I get all these screws off, and I open this one up, you can see, ta-da, the main jet is sitting there in the bowl. So I think that's a huge issue on why this thing wasn't running that good. And little spoiler, in the future video, there's another problem with this sled that I find out, which is also making it not run good at all. But anyways, you can see there the jet was definitely clogged, and this car was just in a little bit worse shape than the other one. Bowl kind of looked the same. The fork did work, and the pilot jet was open, but we're going to take this one, clean it, and put these back on the sled. Also, my mic started working again, so let's head back to the audio and the video, and we'll move on to the next thing on this sled.
All right, carb's back in. The only thing I haven't put back in yet is the air box, and also we got to throw back on the skis. But I just want to make sure this thing ran good before I went and did that next step. So I gave her a couple pulls, and move these out of the way. So I gave her a couple pulls, let the bowls fill up, and now watch this. She sounds good. The choke is a little still too small, but I'm just going to leave it there. This sled's going to be up for sale, so I'm not going to make it exactly perfect. I want to make sure it's running good, brakes are good for safety, lights all work, all the standard, but if someone wants to go in and make her perfect again, then that's their deal. I just want to make like a good, you know, if a kid wants to ride around the yard, or this would, honestly, this would be the best ice fishing sled. 440 fan, you know, she a little bit longer track, she can tow, you can put a 30 pack on the back grate. So let's get the air box on, we'll get the skis back on, and then I gotta get a brake lever and a line and probably a new, it's like an upper part of the caliper. I'll bring you in and show you that. And I'm gonna order tonight a new windshield for it, spruce her up a little bit. The windshield that was on it, I cracked it when I opened up the hood. The thing slipped out and it broke it. So we'll get a taller one that's more fit for this 2-up sled, make it look a lot better. I would rob a small shorty off of the 440 just so I can get it out of here, but I want to actually have it look good. So, alrighty, let me show you the brake setup. So usually handbrake is here, and there's a little master, like a little master cylinder reservoir type setup. And this line hooks to it like this. The line goes down into this hard line, and then into this caliper, which I'll bring around, which goes into the caliper here. So what we're going to do is take off these 2 bolts, take this piece right out, because that hooks into the hard line, this upper piece. The reason why I'm doing all this was the master cylinder, when I took it off, it was brake dust. So I know this line and probably that rubber line is all clogged up. And I guarantee this whole caliper where it went in to where it squeezes the piston is clogged up too. So if I can find just this upper piece and then a new line and a new brake lever, then this sled is ready to ride. So it's been a couple days and I got some goodies here. New windshield. Hopefully that fits the Indy really well. And this is the box the windshield was in, but also off eBay got a new lever, line, and the top of the caliper, which looks like matches. So let me get the plastic off and we'll have to take those 2 bolts out, get that old one out, and let's see if we can get this brake system working. Then we throw the windshield on and let's take this thing for a ride and get her on Marketplace. So this is the old one that I pulled out. Yeah, she's a little crusty compared to this one, which is, you know, greasy. So a little bit less, but I just squeezed this lever and caliper compresses. So I guess there is fluid in there. I'm gonna go through and make sure everything's all tight and make sure there's enough. And we will get this installed on the sled. Okay, I got this installed. Now let's run over to the other side of the sled, get the lever installed, and then we could check the fluid and make sure everything's bred correctly. Make sure everything's bred correctly. Bred. I like pumpernickel. Anyways, we'll make sure everything's bled correctly, and then put the windshield on, and let's go for a spin with this thing. Okay, next let's just check our reservoir here, master cylinder, whatever you want to call it. See if she's low or whatnot. Well, she's a little brown, not super ideal, but it does work. So I'm just going to top it off, put a smidge more in there with some fresh stuff, and we should be good to go. I'll check the bleeder, make sure that's tight, and make sure that's all set. Let's throw the windshield on, and let's go for a ride. Oh, I'm an idiot. Not too tight now. There we go. So I wheeled her to the center of the shop because we are going to give her a quick bath as well. And we're going to throw this windshield on, see if that makes a drastic change. Right now, she just doesn't look complete. I know the new style for mountain sleds is take the windshield off, but this isn't a mountain sled. This is a take the old lady out to the pub. So we'll put this windshield on her. All right, windshield's on, and wow, it looks good. Changes the whole look of the sled. So now let's give her a bath. She deserves one, much needed. And after that, we're going out.
Up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to drive, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
So, took her for a ride as you just saw. Didn't get much footage of that because she started bogging on me. So, I tried a few things. I changed the fuel pump to a new one. I made sure the gas tank was well ventilated. I made sure the lines weren't clogged. I changed the fuel filter, brand new plugs, and I even dug into the carbs one more time to make sure all the needle and seats were good, everything like that. Well, unfortunately, all those checked out, and it's the one thing that I didn't want to have to replace, and I fully believe it's a crank seal. And I will show you right now why I believe that. Yeah. So we're going to have to do a part 2 on this now, and together we're going to take off the primary and dive into this crank seal deal. Hopefully I don't have to split the case to replace that. I'll do some research. And yeah, I've never done a crank seal on this motor before. Well, I mean this motor, I mean any Polaris 440. Usually they're pretty good. Stay tuned for a part 2 on this. I really didn't want to do a part 2. I really wanted to get this out the door and to another home to have someone enjoy it, especially since we just got a bunch of snow. But yeah, let's get some crank seals ordered up. Let's get a clutch tool ordered up and dive into this motor even more. Well, see you in a few days. How do I buy old sleds? Don't get it.